the webcam works. So hi everybody. I'm coming to you today from San Francisco. And today our career speaker is Sandy LaCorte. She is here in the room with us right now. Welcome, Sandy. And our teacher presenters are Leigh and Rhonda. And let's go ahead and get started. I have a couple of announcements. First off, I want to show you this picture. That's Ira Flato from NPR Science Friday. I met him on Monday, and it's probably the highlight of my week or maybe even my month. So it was great to meet him and talk to him. We asked him to share that picture with other science-minded people. And so yeah, so again, San Francisco. And I got to see Carol this week also. Carol was here. I saw her on Monday morning. So it was nice to see another iTest teacher again. So a few announcements. The stipends are in progress. Some of you may have gotten them already. I hope that they're going out soon. I haven't heard from Dawn where in the process they are. And people who finished their survey after the 15th will be processed now also. I know, Jen, I'm sorry. I'm in a hotel and the internet connection is pretty bad. Oh, good, Chris, that's good to hear. Okay, so it looks like stipends were mailed to people that had the survey in earlier today. Great. So I want to remind you also about Adobe Connect. You can make appointments to use this if you'd like. So again, if you want to use Adobe Connect, just let me know. We can set it up and leave it open for you. And then I wanted to tell you about our IOPs for December and January. This month, we have the Great Global Investigation of Climate happening, our surface temperature field campaign happening, which I know that some of you are doing already. This is the month of December only. And if you don't follow Kevin Jakowski's blog, he has a great blog about it, and we link to it from our webpage. But it's a fantastic program, so I hope you can take part in it. And phenology and climate is still continuing on. Then for January, we have the Climate and Land Cover IOP and also phenology. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so I'm going to turn this now over to Sandy. And she'll talk about her job. Let's see. Tricia, that might be a good idea. Or also turn off any other applications. I'm loading a new PowerPoint presentation, but the screen freezing up might be from me, like the webcam screen. I just turned it off though. Okay, well hopefully Sandy's better connection. And Sandy, do you want to try talking?
Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, sounds great. Sandy, Julie just said that she got booted from the room. So Sandy, we're going to go ahead and get started with you. So go ahead, take it away, Sandy.
I can hear you, Jessica. All right, can everybody hear me okay? All right, well, we're going to get started. Like Julie said, my name is Sandy LaCorte. I am a meteorologist at the National Weather Service. I am located here on the East Coast in Wilmington, North Carolina. And just thank you all for your time tonight. So we'll get started. I always like to start off with this picture. It is, some of you might recognize it. It's the TIV from the Discovery Channel show Storm Chasers. This was actually at a conference that I had attended, and it was there, so I figured I would take my picture with it. And let's see. So a lot of people always ask me how I became interested in meteorology, and I think it would be safe to say that a lot of people I know that are meteorologists probably have known since they were little that it's what they wanted to be, but my story is actually a little bit different. You'll see some bullets there, and there's a nice picture of Hurricane Hugo from back in 1989, and I guess I'll show my age. I was 3 years old when Hurricane Hugo came through Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I was living. And, you know, my parents tell me back then I was extremely fascinated by the storm. They couldn't get me away from the window. But actually, when I was 6 years old, we had moved into a much older home, and that night there was actually a tornado warning for where we were. It was about 30 miles north of Charlotte. And as you can see from this second bullet, from the age of 6 to 15, I had actually developed something called astrophobia, which is a fear of thunder and lightning. And it was really bad. I would have extreme anxiety attacks. Even when, you know, there was a thunderstorm in school, my teachers told me that, you know, I would run to the library to hide. But we had talked to doctors, and they had just said, you know, start to learn about it, learn about how the atmosphere works. And before I knew it, my fear had become my passion. And I like to think it's a pretty cool story. So this was probably in high school when I had to start thinking about what I wanted to be. And all I could really think of was to be a meteorologist. So just moving on to education and experience. At the time, I wanted to stay in-state, and there were only a few schools that offered meteorology. Actually ended up attending the University of North Carolina in Asheville. There I did earn my bachelor's degree in atmospheric sciences, and I also earned a math minor. And then when it came time to graduate, you know, did I go straight into the work field? It was a little confusing. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I decided that I wanted to further my education. So I'd applied to a few graduate schools, and you know, just looking at what all had to offer, I was really set on going to Alabama. The University of Alabama in Huntsville had a great program, and I was really excited about it. So I did end up going there, and I earned my master's of science degree in atmospheric science in 2011. In addition to education, throughout my college years, I also gained a lot of field experience, which was really exciting. 2007 and 2008, during the summers, I actually joined a group from Virginia Tech and went on some storm chase trips with them. I was the radar operator both years. And then also I went on a Vortex 2 trip, which was a funded science experiment where they were trying to learn more about tornadoes and tornado genesis. And that's with the picture on the right. That was actually one of our research vehicles from UA Huntsville, and I got to drive it around on our storm chase trip. So that was pretty exciting. And I noticed I forgot to mention at the bottom, I did put an asterisk of the type of classes that you take as a meteorologist. You know, when I do career talks and talk with students who want to be meteorologists, they always ask, well, what kind of classes do you need to take? So I always tell them, you know, there's a lot of physics, calculus, computer programming, and but it's really exciting stuff. So getting into my work history, the National Weather Service was something I was introduced to back in 2007, between my junior and senior year of college, I attended a volunteer program at the Greenville-Spartanburg, South Carolina office. And, you know, it was one of those things that I realized that's what I wanted to do. So a great opportunity arose when I was in graduate school in Alabama. They also had office, National Weather Service office there, co-located with the university. And I had applied for a program which was it was called a Student Career Experience Program. I was known as a SCEP student. Essentially, I had the opportunity to work at the National Weather Service and finish up my graduate school work, and that was really great to just know that I was getting that much closer to where I wanted to be. So like I said, I did graduate in 2011 from Huntsville, or UA Huntsville, and only a few weeks later I was offered a job at the Wilmington, North Carolina office, and I've been here since April of 2011. And I will say that picture on the right is from a tornado outbreak event that I was working while in Huntsville. It's just an action shot. I really love that picture. I just wanted to go over quickly what the National Weather Service is. I think a lot of people just don't fully understand, or they think, oh, you know, it's just the agency that issues warnings. But here's a map. Each color represents a different weather forecasting office. We have about 123 offices and approximately 4,800 employees. In addition to the forecast offices, we also have river centers where their main focus is on, you know, river forecasting. And also we have special centers such as the Storm Prediction Center, which is out in Norman, Oklahoma, and the National Hurricane Center, which is down in Miami, Florida. With the National Weather Service, we're responsible for issuing warnings, which you may know when they scroll across the bottom of your TV screen and it says, you know, the National Weather Service has issued a warning. That's us. And aside from warnings, we issue forecasts, different public weather services that, you know, we have an array of clients that, you know, get this information. Our operations, I wanted to put this in here. Our products not only impact the public, but whatever information that we send out, emergency responders, law enforcement, school systems, if we're a coastal office, fishermen and boaters, you know, tourist people that may be visiting the area, even down to sporting events, insurance companies. You know, a big thing with insurance companies, if there's a severe thunderstorm that produces hail and it breaks someone's windows, or it messes up someone's roof, then they're going to call us and see if it actually happened. So there's a lot of things that we do that impact other people. This is just an interesting slide. A lot of people know the typical severe thunderstorm warning and, you know, tornado warning, hurricane warning that we issue, but this is an array of, you know, different warnings that we issue, from avalanche warnings. Now we don't have to worry about that here in the coastal Carolinas, but also tsunami warnings, volcano warnings. Some of you may be looking at, you know, extreme cold. So that's just a list of different ones that we issue. So everyone always asks me what it's like to be a meteorologist. You know, there's the different jokes out there, but I absolutely love my job. The main thing is we get to forecast the weather. It seems like a challenge each day. It's, you know, it's trying to solve a problem, and so it's just really fun. The top picture, actually the top left picture, that is when I was working Hurricane Irene, which hit the coastal office, or just swept right by us actually last year. Another great thing about being a weather service meteorologist is we get to do outreach. We get to go talk to students, children, college students about not only weather and severe weather preparedness and winter weather preparedness and how to keep safe, but also, if they're really interested in becoming a meteorologist, what they can do. Also, we do spotter trainings. We actually train the public to let us know if there's severe weather going on, which is really important to our operations. And so that's just a few things with outreach. Research is one big thing that I really enjoy. When I was doing my master's degree, I actually was looking towards trying to create a new forecasting tool for tornadoes. And it hadn't really been done before the way I was going about it. But it was just awesome to see that something that hadn't really been tapped into before was starting to be looked at. But every day, meteorologists around the country, whether they're in the Weather Service or if they're, at universities doing research, it's just there's something new coming out every day. With that continued education, as a Weather Service meteorologist, we're constantly doing training that's coming out. So, and every day is a learning experience, so the learning doesn't just stop in the classroom. The great thing is conferences. I've attended a few. There's a few different societies out there, like the American Meteorological Society and the National Weather Association and other conferences that are held, and you just get to network and meet people. On the right, I just chose two pictures that people would possibly recognize. In the top right is Jim Cantori, and on the bottom right is Reed Timmer. It doesn't matter if we're at the Weather Service or on TV. It's a huge weather network, and it's really exciting to just be a part of it. And I will have to claim the fame that all those pictures I did take or I was in, so I'm pretty proud of that tornado picture that I have in the bottom left. This is one thing that I like to stress to students when I'm talking to them about if they want to become a meteorologist. Once you go through college, no one says you have to go to graduate school. No one says you have to go directly into a job. You have to do what's best for you. I chose the graduate school route, and I couldn't be more excited that that's what I chose. Aside from graduate school, if you go directly into the job, that's great. There's also internships out there. If it just doesn't look like there's any jobs open right now, I always encourage students to at least take part in an internship, because that way, even that time that they are waiting for a job, that they're gaining experience. And a lot of businesses and other locations, such as the private sector or TV stations, they really like to see that. They want to see that you're working hard towards something you really want. And then again, if there's no internships, you can always volunteer. That's what I did. It's just, you need to get the experience, and I always want to stress that that's really important. One thing I like to point out is there's a lot of concentrations within meteorology. I love the aspect of severe weather. Others will love more of the atmospheric chemistry, winter weather. But there's also other ways that you can be meteorologists through, if you're an emergency manager, if you're in the military. One really cool thing that a lot of people don't know about is being a forensic meteorologist. That's where you're actually, working on a possible case in a courtroom, and you're having to defend what the weather was that day to see, who's possibly at fault. So there's just a great background, a great choice of different concentrations that are available to you as a meteorologist. And with that, I just want to thank you all for letting me be here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Technically, no. Actually, when I was in undergrad, we had a radio show that we would record the forecast for, so I did take part in that, but that's all I've actually ever done.
So Julie just linked the Space Weather Prediction Group from NOAA. They're actually located in Boulder, Colorado. So they're at the
I see a question from Carol.
So
do you mean the National Weather Service looking at space weather? I believe there's a space weather prediction center. Jessica, please correct me if I'm wrong. I actually don't know a lot about space weather. I know that, you know, NASA and NOAA, they do have folks that are geared more towards that. But as in the weather service, that's nothing we really deal with. If we hear about it, you know, we find it really fascinating, and we'll try to pass it on to people. Let's see. Let's see. Tim asked, have you used GIS? If so, on what are you using ArcMap? I actually, for the only time I've used GIS, and I wish I've used it more, and I've actually been working with some forecasters to really try to work with it more because it's becoming such a great thing, especially in our field. On my master's thesis, I used ArcMap actually to plot when I was studying a domain of where tornadoes had touched down. So I took their lat long and I plotted, you know, where their starting point was. That's the only time I've used ArcMap or GIS. But again, it's such a huge thing now, and I wish I had taken a course in college.
We have that on our website. So if you go
to I'm actually looking at doing a distance learning to maybe a certificate in GIS.
To a link where to find that. So you can always look there.
Let's see.
And see
for Gerard.
We have what you're looking
for. Probably the best person you'd want to contact is the National Climatic Data Center. They're located in Asheville, North Carolina. And you can just Google them, and
to Leigh and Rhonda.
Their contact information will come up. For data over a span of that long of time, it's best to contact them. Now, if you were looking for just a few, thanks, Julie. Julie posted the website for NCDC.
All right, thank you so much, Sandy, for your wonderful presentation. And we will get Leigh and Rhonda going. All right, ladies, it is on to you. Let me make you guys presenters. All right, take it away. Leigh and Rhonda, you guys are on. Go ahead and start your mics up. Leigh, are you and Rhonda having some issues with your sound?
How about now? Can you still hear us? Okay. And then you take it. Okay, we've been having a little bit of technical difficulty here, but we want to welcome you to the sunny South here. We have been having a really exciting and busy fall. Weather has been gorgeous. We have had record-breaking temperatures, but we have really tried to keep on track with our exploration. This is our school. We have about 850 7th and 8th graders, and our concentration has been with 90 7th graders, and they're studying a life science curriculum. We've been able to incorporate our investigations on the geese and the just climate investigations we've been able to have them fit with our ecology unit, and also when we were studying the protists and the microinvertebrates, it's been great. Well, you know, we started out with some driving questions.
Hey Leigh, you guys mind speaking up just a little bit? There are a couple of
we began talking about the geese, and my students had so many things to share. Good things, bad things. Almost every child has had some interaction in the community with the geese. So there was interest. We began thinking about how things had changed in our community, and we were wondering about the climate change producing migratory route changes and how this was affecting our local water supplies. We had some students, okay, we'll try to talk louder. We're getting a lot of feedback back here, so we're going to keep working it. Some of our kids have been checking the climate over the past 35 years in North Alabama. So we were glad to hear some of the site data that we can go, some places to go. We have had students checking the migration patterns. We have had a survey sent out to the community trying to find out how it's been affected. In any case, we've got a lot of things being researched. We started out by looking at one of the sites that is very local to us. We can walk to this little stream in about 5 minutes. We went out to start mapping our site. They were checking it out. Now this is in August, And so we've really been able to see a lot of changes over the season. They did some of their data collection. They've done mapping. They sketched and just have generally had a good time. Getting outside has been wonderful. These children are part of a special education class that's with my class. And I think that would have been one of the wonderful groups because they have felt so successful and have really been enthralled with the whole investigation. They have been enthusiastic and truly able to do the activities that we have done. Rhonda's going to tell you a little bit about our next activities.
So after they had mapped their sites and we had talked about their driving questions, we began with the hydrology protocol. The first thing that we did was the turbidity, and it was great because it was a good one to start with, that we could learn, you know, how to do everything. I'm sorry if I'm pausing. There's a lot of feedback. Hold 1 second. Please let me know if that is not loud enough. I turned it down so that it wouldn't be so distracting to us. So we took the students out and we taught them about turbidity. They had a lot of questions, and as they learned to do the protocol, they figured out that maybe the geese were causing some of these differences in the turbidity. And also they had questions about maybe that's why the geese chose different places to habitat. And so that was a great
just
activity that allowed them to think and allowed them to come up with some of their questions. You can see some of their pictures that we tried to not let them fall in that creek, and no one did. But just learning to throw the bucket was quite a quite a feat. So as they learned about turbidity, and I told you they had questions of their own, we also used 2 other sites. One was called James Clemens High School site. I had to bring that water over because we couldn't bring the kids there. So that was okay because we had different things that we could compare. And that was what was so wonderful, is that they had collected data from different sources and then came up with some of their own hypotheses. All right, Leigh is going to talk to you about the leaf packs, which was an idea that we got after we started. I'll do that.
As Rhonda said, we were sort of inspired by some of the earlier webinars talking about this leaf pack activity. And we thought, okay, we can do this. The kids were very, very much enthralled. We started out, of course, going out into our site area and collecting leaves. This has become sort of a driving activity all over the school. People are always coming up and checking out how are the geese people doing, what's happening, what are we doing. And so we had a lot of visitors as well as we were collecting and doing our leaf pack. You can see some of the girls here as they are being very careful in their selection of which leaves had to go into their pack. After we had gotten these done, we had 9 packs that we set up. And I elected to be the one to bury our leaf packs and get them set up in our stream. And that was a sort of a adventure. We had a group of students leave without permission from a local youth restricted area. And so without knowing about this, I was merrily wading into the creek with my rope and my bricks and everything else. And I happened to look up and I had 3 police cars surrounding my vehicle. And they came dashing down the bank and were saying, Miss Adams, you've got to get out of here. We have the dogs out looking for the students. So needless to say, I said, okay, I've got to put this last one in place. And then I rapidly left the area. It's been a lot of fun, though. Okay, we're going to switch off again and talk about learning our protocols.
A little later on, we taught the students about pH, nitrates, and phosphate. We again collected water samples from all of our different sites, our own creek on the campus, as well as the high school, UA Huntsville, and one other pond that we found on the way. So what they did was test the samples, collect their data. You can see here that we put up some pretty simple things for them to follow. And again, this was great practice for them just in the scientific process and keeping their measurements accurate and collecting data, recording it, that sort of thing. And in the end, they put up a big poster and started to analyze, trying to, refer it back to the Goose project and maybe what was going on. We were getting to get some ideas of things that they might want to research.
So about 2 weeks after we had planted our packs, my students kept saying, okay, when are we going to get to look? When we get to look? Because they have to pass over a bridge that takes them over the stream every day as they're coming to school. And so they were constantly looking out to see what was happening there. About 3.5 weeks after we decided we'd go ahead and collect our packs and see what we had. I wanted to mention that the Lamont water quality kit that was sent to us was fantastic. Some of the high school materials, I think our 7th graders would have really been overwhelmed with. This was perfect. They were able to do the test. They were able to explore. And when they came to do this leaf pack activity, they were just thrilled. We had the poster set up. And at first they were saying, oh, there's nothing here, there's nothing here. But then they started finding things. And it was like they were not wanting to go on to the next class. They wanted to stay longer and keep adding things to their little petri dishes. Found lots of stuff. And really and truly, I think this fit so well with our curriculum. We had made little ponds in the classroom, and this just was such a great additional activity. One of the, let's see, I was going to tell you about our big excursion that we did. This was an additional excursion, and we had gone, taken 35 seventh graders down to Dolphin Island. This is a barrier island off the coast of Mobile, about 25 miles off the coast. And we were able to do all sorts of ecological studies down there. Of course, we had been talking about how things had changed in North Alabama. And you can imagine how much we were able to explore the changes that were going on the coast. We saw lots of birds, but also a lot of other animals, as well as the marine life. Went out on a ship, did some observations. This is us at the salt marsh. My gracious, we had such a good time. You can see the mud was everywhere. But they truly did learn an awful lot. We sang and looked at different things that are prevalent. We had different scientists there talking to us about how the habitats have been altered, all sorts of effects from the weather, the oil, and everything else. We just had a good time. We did some coastal oceanography, looking at longshore current and how the island itself is moving and how our overall coast is being affected by the climate changes that we're looking at. This is our crew. This is when we were sort of gathering to pack up and leave the marsh. But you can see we had a really, really great time.
I'm going to try this again. Hope all of you can hear me. Our next talk is until January 16th. It's be at 4:30 p.m. And we'll have Mike and Sue giving a talk, and also Linda, Deb, and Wendy. And our career speaker, I don't know how to say his name, but I think it was Watchery, but I'm not sure his last name. But he'll be here as well. He's a global alumni. So I hope you guys can all come in, have a great holidays, and I'll stick around for a few minutes. If you have any questions, I'll be here.